Who would make a better Green Lantern, Goku or Vegeta? What about a Yellow Lantern? Does Sukuna spread more fear or Makima? We're about to dive into every individual Lantern Corps and pick 3 perfect candidates for each, some of which I guarantee you won't see coming. Be sure to stick around to the end. I'll even be picking out members of the White Lantern Corps, who can bend time, space, and even reality. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's start at the top of the spectrum with the Red Lanterns. Powered by the red light of the emotional spectrum, the Red Lantern Corps utilize the power of rage, the violent, burning anger inside their hearts, to power their rings and make them stronger. Red Lanterns have all the basic powers of a lantern: high-speed flight, enhanced strength, and the ability to create light constructs that project from their rings. What makes the Red Rings stand out is the Blood Pact. The leader of the Red Lanterns, Atrocitus, forged their power battery using alien blood magics, and everyone who put on a Red Lantern ring has their blood permanently transformed into a burning plasma that no longer pumps from their heart, but is instead pumped by the ring itself. They can regurgitate this burning plasma to corrode and destroy the constructs of other lanterns. But if a Red Lantern ever removes their ring, they will die from the lack of real blood in their body. Hardcore. So, who would be a good pick for a Red Lantern? We want characters that are violent, malevolent, fueled by their rage to the point of being self-destructive. They need to be willing to give up everything in service of demolishing that which they hate. My first pick is Broly from Dragon Ball Super. Even from birth, he always had a terrifying shadow self tied to this incredible battle power, an unending rage always bubbling just beneath the surface. And after the death of Paragus, his father, this rage was uncontrollable, to the point that Broly would have obliterated the planet and likely died himself if he wasn't beaten by Gogeta and wished away somewhere peaceful. My next choice, someone who would also make a pretty good Green or even Yellow Lantern, is Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan. Eren was born broken, with a need to topple walls, crush enemies, and conquer empires. His hatred for others, his rage against oppression, it was so powerful that it transcended time and generations. Eren even has a crazy death wish and regularly destroys his own body just to get what he wants. The boiling blood of a Red Lantern ring wouldn't bother him in the slightest. In fact, he would embrace it. Finally, I believe Dabi from My Hero Academia is a great pick for the Red Lantern Corps. Other than the fact that his blue fire would look sick, contrasted against the burning red blood, he has harbored a hatred for his father his entire life, literally burning up his own body and destroying the whole world if he has to, just to express his unyielding rage. Dabi never cared about what would happen to him or any of the poor victims that got in his way, as long as he got to topple Endeavor in the process. Dabi is perfect for our final Red Lantern. Moving on, the Orange Lantern Corps is not really a corps. The orange light is one of avarice or greed. Those with an Orange Lantern ring are overwhelmed by how much everything needs to belong to them and only them. Instead of an entire army of people wielding Orange Lantern rings, one person wears the Orange Lantern ring. Their special ability of Orange Light is that they have at their side a light construct of every single previous wielder of the Orange Ring. Essentially, wearing this makes you a one-man army of lanterns, completely dedicated to finding and owning as much as you can possibly get your hands on. Technically, there have been multiple orange rings that can be worn, but whoever wears one basically never shares. That's kind of the point. I'll be sticking to 3 possible Orange Lantern candidates, but know that technically only one of them would be able to wear the ring at a time. First, probably the most obvious choice, Greed from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Other than the fact that his name is literally greed, this homunculus is also the embodiment of the sin. He wants to own everything, and even makes his deal with Ling because it might lead him to being an emperor with vast swaths of money and resources. Greed stayed true to his nature until the end, and would love the orange ring and the power that it entails. My next choice, again, the name is kind of a dead giveaway, All for One from My Hero. The legendary supervillain whose entire quirk revolves around stealing other people's quirks for himself All for One is the epitome of self-serving. He only ever helps others as a way of manipulating them into being his pawns, viewing all quirks as his toys to play with. Even other people's bodies are his to invade and control. The only person All for One ever cared about, his little brother, it was a twisted love built on control and ownership. AFO is a perfect Orange Lantern. My final pick is Ryusui from Dr. Stone. If you haven't seen Dr. Stone, please do yourself a favor and go watch it. It's fantastic. Ryusui was the son of a billionaire international conglomerate CEO. In the old world, he was known as a greedy playboy, always surrounded by beautiful women, expensive cars, and the nicest clothes. In the Stone world, he only helps the heroes because it's an opportunity to establish himself now as the new richest man on the planet, and is very vocally inspired by nothing other than his own constant desire to have more. He would probably make one of the most ambitious Orange Lanterns possible. And with that, we're on to the really fun Corps. The Yellow Lanterns of the Sinestro Corps are powered by fear. Ruled by Sinestro, each of the Yellow Lanterns pledge their allegiance to him when they charge their batteries. Because yellow is next to green, towards the center of the emotional spectrum, it doesn't have any particularly unique abilities. A Yellow Lantern ring primarily just creates constructs, although it does automatically generate constructs based on the fears of whoever the ring is being used against, which is very helpful. That's because the Sinestro Corps are powered by fear. Not the fear they feel themselves, but the ability to inflict fear in others. To be a powerful Yellow Lantern, you must relish in the fear of others, and masterfully command your presence in their eyes. You gotta be scary. Of course, there are a ton of anime characters, mostly villains, that are great at spreading fear, so I had to be very selective in who I chose here. Honorable mentions go to Frieza from Dragon Ball Z and Muzan from Demon Slayer. Both excellent picks, but we can only have 3. My first choice, you know I had to include him, the King of Curses, Ryomen Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen. Sukuna is the king for a reason, a ruthless, malevolent monster that every single Jujutsu sorcerer is terrified to fight, and even curses themselves instinctually avoid due to his unnerving aura. Sukuna often uses his frightening presence to toy with people, like when he made the sorcerers in Shibuya wait, frozen in place, while Jogo's meteor was hurtling down towards them. Sukuna is not only magnificent at invoking fear, but he relishes it, he loves it. Nothing brings him more joy. My next pick is from the world of Chainsaw Man. Minor manga spoilers, by the way, but I'll keep them light. This entire universe is actually perfectly designed for the Sinestro Corps. Devils in this world grow stronger the more people fear them, exactly how the yellow power rings work. I considered all of the horsemen, the primal fears like darkness and falling devils, and even true Chainsaw Man himself, but I decided Makima was the best fit. She's known by governments all over the world who are all looking for any opportunity to take her down. Random thugs recognize that she has terrifying powers and choose to run as soon as she gets involved in a conflict. And even when she went to negotiate with the Yakuza, she instilled fear into an entire room of badass gangsters without lifting a finger or using a single devil power. Makima is horrifying and would be an incredible Yellow Lantern, although she would also make a great Star Sapphire. My final submission for the Sinestro Corps is Dio Brando of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This multi-generational terror that harnessed both vampiric power and the strongest stand in the world. Part 3 is all about finding some way to kill him before he decides to start doing anything. He's that scary. Even brave-hearted warriors like Avdol instinctually flee from his presence. Dio is not only heartless, but his vampire powers let him toy with living beings, melding animals together into disgusting chimeras, turning people into man-eating zombies. His stand, the world, makes it appear like he can teleport or defeat you without even moving. Even his henchmen are afraid of him, like Darby, who was so frightened that he had a hysteric breakdown just at the idea of betraying his master. Dio radiates fear. Luckily, to become a Green Lantern, you must harness your willpower and overcome great fear. The Green Lantern Corps are the primary force in the universe that uses the emotional spectrum. They're stationed on the planet Oa and serve as the peacekeepers of the cosmos. Green Lanterns use the strength of will, one's ability to push through pain, discomfort, confusion, and fear, and keep moving forward. For this reason, the Green Lantern ring is really well suited for most anime protagonists. Just off the dome, Yuji of Jujutsu Kaisen is a scrappy fighter. He never gives up, even when dealing with intense emotional and physical trauma. Deku from MHA often fights with enough force to break his own limbs multiple times in a row. Both would make great Green Lanterns, but I think there are better picks for the cream of the crop. Speaking of, Naruto's Might Guy, the Leaf Village's noble green beast, is a perfect Green Lantern. Born with a very low affinity for chakra control, he instead chose to relentlessly train his physical body, pushing his strength well beyond the limits of humanity to become a complete monster. He even mastered the 8 inner gates, and in his fight with Madara was shattering his bones with every movement and chose to simply fight through the pain. His willpower is stupidly high, and he overcame the fear of never becoming a great ninja, instead paving his own path forward. My next pick, which might ruffle some feathers, is Prince Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Now, if we're being honest, most characters from Dragon Ball would make incredible Green Lanterns, but the reason I picked Vegeta instead of Goku or even Gohan is because Vegeta has more specific, ridiculous feats of willpower. His first was when he was being mind-controlled by Babidi's Majin magic, but just decided not to be, forcing his body to keep control. And then later in Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta unlocked the Ultra Ego transformation, which gets stronger as he takes more damage. He has to literally force his body not to dodge incoming attacks, force himself to get hurt so he can get stronger in the middle of a fight. This is the ultimate statement of will, the exact opposite of Goku's Ultra Instinct, where he empties the body of will. Vegeta just never gives up, even when he probably should. He's easily the cockiest of the Z Fighters, but that's a trait he shares with both Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner, both exceptional Green Lanterns. Vegeta is the obvious choice. Lastly, the definitive anime character for the Green Lantern Corps, Simone the Digger from Gurren Lagann. Simone is easily the most powerful character I'll mention in this entire video, and that's all due to his spiral power, the internal force of human nature, willpower, that he cultivates over the course of his adventure, lifting him up from a little boy stuck digging underground to the hero of the universe, fist-fighting an evil god. Simone is the GOAT. He is the embodiment of willpower. He even has enough will to choose to limit his own abilities, so he doesn't disrupt the natural order of the universe. Even if it means bringing his beloved dead friends back to life, he chooses to stop himself. No one does it like Simone. Please watch Gurren Lagann if you haven't already. But that tangent aside, I just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please drop a like below, let me know your thoughts down in those comments, and subscribe. That keeps the algorithm happy, and hey, one of us deserves to be happy. And besides, you can always unsub later if you change your mind. Now, on to the next color. The Blue Lantern Corps, powered by Hope, are essentially the inverse of the Sinestro Corps. Instead of weakening green rings, they supercharge them, as Hope enables you to double down on your will. Blue Lanterns are actually the strongest of all 7 traditional ring colors, but there is a catch. On their own, blue rings can only be used for defense and flight. Their powers are only fully activated when a Green Lantern is nearby. Hope may empower will, but Hope is also inert without the will to act on it. Super cool stuff. All that said, Blue Lanterns are powered by Hope, both the hopefulness inside your heart and your ability to inspire hope in others. My first pick for a Blue Lantern is the symbol of peace himself, All Might from MHA. All Might is quite literally a beacon of hope. His catchphrase, "I am here," it's a call to everyone in danger. Don't be afraid, have hope, because I am here to help. Beyond that, he always presses forward, even when his sidekick Night Eye, who can see the future, tells him that he'll die a gruesome death. All Might decides to keep fighting anyway. As it turns out, the quirk, One for All, even holds the power to change fate, to change that future. What is more hopeful than changing the future that was supposedly set in stone? Side note, in this scenario, I would give Deku a Green Lantern ring, meaning that the two of them are most powerful when they work together. Next up is Alphonse Elric, the living suit of armor from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. While most people have a choice to be hopeful, it was a necessity for Alphonse. After losing his body and having his soul sealed inside a suit of metal armor, he had no more sensations. He couldn't feel or eat or sleep, and there was no end to this existence in sight. His only choice was to trust in his brother Edward and hold out hope that one day he could return to humanity, that one day he could feel the sun shine on his face again. And even though he was a child, Al never gave in to despair. The body horror, the cosmic horror, not even the regular old everyday horror, none of it was enough to break his spirit. Al would make an exceptional Blue Lantern and perfectly accentuate Edward as a Green Lantern. Finally, Tanjiro from Demon Slayer would be my final choice for the Blue Lantern Corps. To be honest, he's equally qualified to be a Green Lantern. Tanjiro has a limitless well of both will and hope, but I choose to focus on his hope. Even after losing most of his family to demons, after his sister was transformed into a demon, something that everyone told him could never be reversed, he never gave up on the chance that he could find a normal life for her. Tanjiro is constantly beat down by malicious monsters and always holds his head high and pushes forward with the hope that he can build a better world. Also, Nezuko, who has to constantly fight against her demonic nature and refuses to eat another person, would make a great Green Lantern for another fantastic blue and green pair. Moving on, we have the Indigo Tribe, a very unique faction of the emotional spectrum that draws upon the power of compassion. What's different about the Indigo Tribe is that they do not seek out people with powerful compassion inside their hearts, like you might think. Instead, they purposefully try to find the most sadistic and cruel sociopaths in the whole universe and forcefully co-opt them into the tribe, overloading them with compassion and rehabilitating them as they join into what is sort of like a hive mind. Members of the tribe abandon everything and dedicate themselves to spreading kindness throughout the universe. They give up all their possessions, so they don't have uniforms, but instead apply the Indigo logo on their body with paint. Instead of lanterns, they carry hand-carved staffs, and because compassion is born from empathy, Indigo power rings can mimic the powers of any other rings that are close by. They can create the burning plasma when next to a red lantern, or boost green rings if a blue lantern is nearby, etc. They also have the unique power of teleportation. They can move anywhere in the universe in an instant. My first pick for the Indigo Tribe is Killua Zoldyck from Hunter x Hunter. Killua is from a family of ruthless assassins. He can and has brutally murdered those standing in his way, adopting a sociopathic mask that makes him terrifying to watch. But he's also had a natural inclination towards compassion that I think the Ring would pick up on. He was always the kindest of his family members towards Aluka and formed a selfless friendship with Gon despite how aimless he was before the Hunter exams. My next pick is Katsuki Bakugo of MHA. Bakugo has always been a sadistic monster, ever since Chapter 1, when he told Deku to take a swan dive off the roof of their middle school. For God's sakes, his hero name is Explosion King Murder God Dynamite. He's always screaming about how much he wants to murder not only villains, but anyone who gets in his way, and smear them across the pavement. Bakugo's natural aversion to compassion, the result of his superiority complex, was his whole character arc. He learned that being a hero was about saving people just as much as it was about beating the bad guys, and how to reach out a hand to others. Bakugo would make an excellent Indigo tribe member, as his violent tendencies would be quelled by the calming light of compassion. Lastly, Gaara of the Hidden Sand from Naruto is an ideal Indigo ring bearer. Cursed from birth to be a Jinchuriki with the one tail trapped inside of him, he was molded into a ruthless monster by his village. His forehead tattoo, Eye, symbolizes this, a monster who only loves himself, devoid of compassion or empathy. But after his battle with Naruto, learning the value of connecting with others, Gaara became one of the most compassionate characters in the series, willing to die protecting the very sand village that made him into a monster as a child. Gaara is practically the perfect choice for the Indigo tribe. Finally, we reach the end of the emotional spectrum, the violet light of love, harnessed by the star sapphires. This is one of the more confusing emotional lights due to the multifaceted nature of love. A mother loves her children, but a husband loves his wife, and in a twisted way, a stalker loves his victim too. The star sapphires don't discriminate on what type of love you feel, or even whether this love is healthy or selfless, just that you feel it strongly. Funny enough, they did used to discriminate based on sex. Only women were allowed in the Star Sapphire Corps, but this rule has since been removed. As for powers, the Star Sapphires have two unique attributes. First of all, love is stronger when it is shared, so whenever two or more violet ring bearers are gathered together, their power is boosted. The more sapphires that work together, the greater the boost is. Secondly, star sapphires can utilize a crystallization, forming a violet crystal barrier around someone and trapping them in a suspended animation, and even mind controlling them to love the person who's wearing the ring, a sort of possessive, domineering expression of love. Now, very similar to how a lot of shonen protagonists would be great Green Lanterns, and a lot of villains would make fantastic Yellow Lanterns, most shonen love interests fall into the Star Sapphire category super easily. Just off the dome, Sakura, Hinata, Orihime, Uraraka, I could go on for a while. I'll try to take it a little further than shallow girl character who's in love with the main character in order to keep it interesting. But yes, if someone pops into your head here, she'd probably be a good Star Sapphire. Our first Star Sapphire is Mikasa Ackerman from Attack on Titan. Ever since the day Eren saved her from the human traffickers and wrapped his scarf around her neck, Mikasa has dedicated herself completely to him, to keep him safe, to stay by his side however she could make it work. And ultimately, Mikasa was a perfect allegory for Ymir, who loved King Fritz so much she never left his servitude. Mikasa spent the entire series letting Eren develop into a monster because she never dared challenge him. When she was finally able to overcome her love for him to save the entire world, she still spent the rest of her life holding on to his memory. Mikasa's love is incredibly powerful. She would make an excellent Star Sapphire. My second pick is Princess Tsunade, the 5th Hokage from Naruto. Tsunade's younger life was filled with love for both her little brother and her husband Dan, both of which were taken from her in the Third Great Ninja War. Without their love in her life, Tsunade lost all will to carry on, becoming a drunken, gambling addict. But when Naruto reminded her of how much she used to love them, she overcame her fear and rose up to be the 5th Hokage, now rekindling her love and refocusing it onto the Leaf Village as its protector. And even if she never said it out loud, I personally believe that she loved Jiraiya as well. And for my last pick, I am going with Vinsmoke Sanji, the blackleg chef of the Straw Hats. Most people would probably pick Boa Hancock from One Piece, but I think Sanji is a better choice for Star Sapphire for two reasons. First, his love extends to literally all women, and it's genuine enough that it affects his behavior, how he treats all of them in all of his interactions. Hancock only has love for one person. And the second reason I chose Sanji, it's really funny. I think he would be the most obnoxious Star Sapphire. He would annoy the hell out of all the other members with his constant fawning, but he'd unironically be extremely powerful and wield the violet light with ease. Now that we've covered the entire emotional spectrum, this is the point where I guess I should explain the Ultraviolet core. Instead of physical power rings, ultraviolet rings appear on the finger of the wielder like a tattoo, and membership in the core is spread like a virus, infecting those in close proximity to an ultraviolet lantern. Hot take here, I think the ultraviolet lanterns are stupid. The idea of an unseen color being powered by hidden emotions? That's really cool. But unfortunately, what those unseen emotions are, disgust, bloodlust, self-destructive desires, I think they tend to slot pretty well into the other colors, mostly red and yellow. It would make much more sense if ultraviolet lanterns picked a single hidden emotion, like shame, for example, and then ran with that. Because the requirements to wield ultraviolet light are so vague, it's hard to find a character that fits them. I thought about choosing characters who are primal, who act more on instincts instead of conscious emotions, but this isn't really how ultraviolet lanterns work either. All in all, I think the whole core is a poorly thought out concept, but I will throw you guys a bone with this one. I do have one pick. Shinji Ikari from Neon Genesis Evangelion. He's basically the poster child for anime character with mental health issues. Shame, self-hatred, bloodlust, regular old normal lust. He's got all of them. And his passivity, how frequently he lets himself be manipulated and forced into situations he doesn't want, never asking any questions or taking charge of the situation. I think he's a prime candidate for being taken over, the mind virus of the ultraviolet light infecting him and transforming him into a lantern. I guess. Like I said, I don't really like this core. I mean, what's next? Infrared lanterns? Gamma lanterns? I think it's dumb. And besides, I'm really excited to get into these next two cores. The Black Lanterns of Death represent darkness, a complete lack of the emotional spectrum you can only experience when you are cut off from life itself. Black Lanterns are terrifying emissaries of the underworld. To become a Black Lantern, you must be dead or have died at some point. You rise from the grave, essentially becoming a zombie, obsessed with spreading the Black Lantern's plague by touching other dead bodies and eating the hearts of the living. Black Lanterns can mimic the powers of the other Lantern Corps members, as well as spread out a blanket of darkness, almost like a domain expansion, that cuts off other lanterns from the light of their emotional batteries. The only thing that can prevent you from being overtaken by a black ring is if you are completely at peace with your death. Because Black Lanterns are the dead, who spread death wherever they go, I had to think carefully on who would be the best fits. My first pick is the Mad God Zamasu from Dragon Ball Super. The same Kai who stole Goku's body to become Goku Black and later fused with his alternate timeline self. Zamasu was the creator of the Zero Mortal Plan, slaughtering every single living being in the entire universe, so only the gods would remain. Zamasu even wished for immortality with his Kai body, with the Dragon Balls, but because he was fused with a non-immortal Goku Black, his body began to deteriorate, forever trapped in between life and death. Who else could understand the black power of death any better than him? My second pick for Black Lantern is Light Yagami, Kira from Death Note. Light is a sociopath with a god complex, not unlike Zamasu, who dedicates his life to unending murder, killing as many of the world's criminals as possible to create a global utopia. Light may be alive for the entirety of the series, but his companion Ryuk is a Shinigami, a god of death. And we know Light is no stranger to Faustian bargains. He would very likely jump on the chance to become a Black Lantern. To be undead means he would never have to worry about his reign as Kira ending. He could spread death across the world, unabated forever, like a real god. Finally, Madara Uchiha, the Shadow of the Leaf, is a perfectly suited person for the Black Power Ring. Not only is Madara undead, a reanimated corpse parading around the battlefield, slaughtering everyone who dares cross him, but he even hates life on a fundamental level. His entire goal is to activate the infinite Tsukuyomi, an all-powerful genjutsu cast onto the full moon that traps everyone in an unending dream. Madara is a walking corpse that only knows how to kill and keep people from living their real lives. His potential as a Black Lantern is incredible. Well, incredibly terrifying. Oh, wait, sorry. Actually, I said that Black Lantern rings have one weakness, that they don't work on people who rest in peace. But it turns out the black stench of death can be cleared one other way. The blazing light of life. The White Lanterns utilize the full power of the emotional spectrum. You know how if you shine a white light through a prism, it gets split into a rainbow? That's what White Lanterns are, a collection of the entire force of the emotional light brought back together again. The ultimate power of life, the white light of creation. A single White Lantern can wipe out entire swarms of Black Lanterns in an instant with godlike power. They can heal wounds, raise the dead back to life, and perform every single power of the other lights. Create hard light doppelgangers like an orange ring, duplicate the fears of others like a yellow ring, the crystallization of a violet ring, all of it. Finally, the white ring holds within it the life equation. You might be familiar with the anti-life equation, the ever-elusive piece of knowledge that Darkseid is always seeking, so he can use it to subjugate the universe. This is the opposite, the ultimate expression of life, creation, and freedom. It lets the wielder completely rewrite the reality of the multiverse. This incredible power is only bestowed on two types of people. The first, someone who completely masters the emotional spectrum, tapping completely into their emotions of rage, avarice, fear, will, hope, compassion, and love. With all these mastered, you can transform a Green Lantern ring into a White Lantern ring. The second way to get a white ring is to be gifted one by a current White Lantern. These rings are only given to those with an intense zeal for life, who have within them the power to create and protect it. So, who did I pick to hold this godlike power? Our first White Lantern is Giorno Giovanna of JoJo Part 5, Golden Wind. Giorno's stand, which is a reflection of the soul, is Gold Experience. Gold Experience is all about creating life, imbuing the inert with life force, transforming a book into a hopping frog or a paper into a flying butterfly. He can sense the life energy of other beings and even heal himself and others. Giorno was dedicated to cleaning up his streets to get rid of drugs, and did so by creating life, using that life to defeat evil. Even his Requiem stand, the evolved form of Gold Experience, wields godlike power that extends the life of those he kills into their eternal afterlife. Giorno would be a great pick for a White Lantern, and would likely even have some insight into the basis of the life equation. My second pick for a White Lantern is Violet Evergarden, titular character from the Netflix series. Violet is a superhuman, discovered as a young girl and used as an emotionless weapon to slaughter enemies in a brutal war. But after her time as a soldier ended, she finally entered into society, and was given the chance to discover her free will. Her job as a letter writer led her all around the world, discovering humanity, listening to the stories of others, and interpreting their words into impactful prose. Violet, over multiple years, grew from an empty shell of a person with no emotions, a weapon, no emotional intelligence, to the most sought-after writer in the entire nation. She learned to master every single emotion from everyone she encountered, and even confronted her own feelings that had been buried for so long, including the intense guilt of all the lives she had taken during the war. The story of Violet's emotional awakening is not only one of the most beautiful anime I've ever seen, but it perfectly mirrors the journey of a White Lantern in mastering the entire emotional spectrum. Finally, my favorite pick for the White Lantern Corps, Captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy perfectly embodies the endless zeal for life, the unstoppable joy of creation, the very essence of freedom incarnate in a single man. Luffy's entire journey across the Grand Line is one of liberation, vanquishing tyranny and oppression, the tenets of anti-life, all while exhibiting a zest for adventure unmatched by any character I can think of. Luffy is such a spot-on pick for the White Lanterns. Just look at Gear 5. His final form, where he's overcome with joy, cloaked in white, and gains the ability to manipulate the world around him, he's halfway to being a White Lantern already. Which, now that I think about it, is really fitting, seeing how his fated enemy, Blackbeard, uses the power of darkness, and even stole a devil fruit from a dead Whitebeard, just like a Black Lantern might. Interesting. Stay frosty.